Chocolate wasn't always sweet. Over 3,000 years ago, the Maya made a bitter cacao drink. The Aztecs believed it was a gift from the gods.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're unwrapping a story that's as rich and complex as its subject. We're talking about chocolate. But this isn't just a story about your favorite candy bar. It's a journey that spans thousands of years, from a sacred ritual in ancient Mesoamerica to the global phenomenon it is today. How did a bitter, frothy drink, once reserved for Maya and Aztec elites, become a symbol of love, comfort, and indulgence for billions around the world? Get ready, because the history of chocolate is packed with surprising twists, dark secrets, and incredible innovation. Our story begins over 4,000 years ago in the tropical lowlands of present-day Mexico and Central America. This is the homeland of the cacao tree, Theobroma cacao, which literally means food of the gods. The ancient Olmecs were likely the first to domesticate this plant, but it was the Maya civilization that truly elevated cacao to a divine status. For the Maya, cacao wasn't just food. It was a sacred gift from the gods, an integral part of their spiritual and social life. They consumed it as a frothy, bitter beverage, often mixed with chili peppers, cornmeal, and other spices. Forget your sweet, creamy hot chocolate. This was a powerful, stimulating drink used in religious ceremonies, from birth to marriage to death. Cacao beans were so valuable they were even used as currency. Imagine paying your taxes with a bag of chocolate. When the Aztecs rose to power in the 14th century, they adopted and expanded upon the Mayan cacao culture. Since they couldn't grow cacao in their high-altitude capital, Tenochtitlan, they demanded it as tribute from the peoples they conquered. For the Aztecs, this drink, which they called Xochitl, meaning bitter water, was a source of strength and wisdom, reserved for warriors, priests, and nobility. The Aztec Emperor Montezuma was said to drink dozens of goblets of it a day, from golden cups, to boost his energy and libido. This was the world that Spanish conquistadors, led by Hernan Cortes, stumbled upon in the early 1500s. They were initially unimpressed by the bitter, gritty drink, but they were certainly impressed by its value. They saw the brown gold not as a spiritual elixir, but as a commodity with immense economic potential. This is where the story takes a dramatic turn. The Spanish brought cacao beans back to Europe, and what happened next would change chocolate forever. The European palate, accustomed to sweetness, found the traditional bitter Mesoamerican recipe, well, a bit challenging. So they did what they did with many New World discoveries. They adapted it. They ditched the chili peppers and added sugar, cinnamon, and other familiar spices. This new, sweetened version of chocolate became an instant sensation in the Spanish court. It was an exotic, luxurious drink, a status symbol enjoyed by the aristocracy. For the next century, Spain jealously guarded its chocolate secret, monopolizing the cacao trade and establishing vast plantations in its colonies. The creation of these plantations marks one of the darkest chapters in chocolate's history. To meet the soaring demand in Europe, the Spanish colonizers established massive cacao farms in Central and South America. They forced indigenous populations into brutal labor under horrific conditions. When disease and overwork decimated the local workforce, the Spanish turned to the transatlantic slave trade, forcibly bringing millions of Africans to the Americas to toil on cacao and sugar plantations. So, as Europe's upper class sipped their sweet, decadent chocolate, its production was being fueled by immense human suffering. The sacred food of the gods had become a commodity greased by the wheels of colonial exploitation. This bitter legacy is a part of chocolate's DNA that we often forget when we break off a piece of a candy bar. By the 17th and 18th centuries, the chocolate craze had spread from Spain across Europe. Chocolate houses, similar to today's coffee shops, popped up in London, Paris, and Amsterdam. These became bustling social hubs for the wealthy and influential, places to discuss politics, business, and art over a steaming cup of chocolate. But it was still an expensive, handmade luxury, enjoyed primarily as a drink. The chocolate we know today, the solid bar you can eat, was still a long way off. For that to happen, we needed a revolution. Not a political one, but an industrial one. The 19th century was the game changer for chocolate. A series of brilliant inventions completely transformed how it was made and consumed. In 1828, a Dutch chemist named Coenraad van Houten invented the cocoa press. This incredible machine could separate the cocoa butter from the roasted cacao beans, leaving a fine powder we now know as cocoa. This process not only made chocolate cheaper to produce, but also led to a more consistent and palatable drink. Van Houten also developed a process to treat the cocoa with alkaline salts to reduce its bitterness, a method now known as Dutching. But the revolution didn't stop there. In 1847, a British chocolatier named Joseph Fry had a genius idea. He discovered that by adding melted cocoa butter back into the Dutch cocoa powder, along with sugar, he could create a paste that could be pressed into a mold. The result? The world's very first solid chocolate bar for eating. Suddenly, chocolate was no longer just a drink. It was a portable, delicious treat. This innovation opened the floodgates. Companies like Cadbury in England quickly followed suit, launching their own versions of the eating chocolate bar. But the final piece of the puzzle was yet to come. Then, in 1875, a Swiss chocolatier named Daniel Peter decided to try mixing milk with his chocolate. His early attempts were a failure because the water content in the milk caused mildew. But then he teamed up with his neighbor, a man named Henry Nessel, who had recently invented a process for making powdered milk. By combining powdered milk with the chocolate liquor, Peter created something magical: the milk chocolate bar. It was smoother, creamier, and less bitter than its dark chocolate predecessors. The world went wild for it. A few years later, another Swiss innovator, Rodolphe Lindt, invented the conking machine. This device mixed and aerated the chocolate for long periods, resulting in the silky, melt-in-your-mouth texture that we associate with fine chocolate today. With these innovations, the cocoa press, the solid bar, milk chocolate, and conking, the modern chocolate industry was born. Visionary entrepreneurs like Hershey, Cadbury, Nestle, and Lindt built massive factories, using mass production techniques to make chocolate affordable and accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy. Advertising campaigns transformed chocolate from a luxury item into an everyday treat, a comfort food, and the perfect gift for occasions like Valentine's Day and Easter. Chocolate had completed its journey from a sacred, bitter drink for Mayan gods to a standardized, globally traded commodity that reshaped economies and redefined indulgence for people all over the planet. So, the next time you unwrap a bar of chocolate, take a moment to think about its incredible history. Think of the ancient Mayans, who saw it as a divine gift, the brutal colonial exploitation that fueled its global spread, and the industrial ingenuity that placed it in the hands of billions. It's a story of culture, conquest, and chemistry, all melted together into one of the world's most beloved foods. The journey of chocolate is a powerful reminder that even the simplest pleasures can have a complex and sometimes difficult past. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories behind the things we love. See you next time.